All right, welcome back to this week's episode of the Amazon Wholesale Podcast presented by Seller Amp. And so this week I've got a return guest with me. I've got Chris Grant. So Chris was featured in one of the earlier episodes. I want to say it's around episode 8 or 9. For those of you that don't know Chris Grant, you probably haven't been around the Amazon space for very long. He is a veteran seller. He's been in the game for over a decade. He is the creator of Keepa Academy. He's the creator of Storefront Stalker Pro. He's also my partner in the Wholesale Challenge and a super knowledgeable Amazon seller, especially when it comes to advanced Keepa strategies, which we're going to dig into a little bit today. So Chris, thank you for taking the time to come back, man. And let's give the people a little bit of an intro of who you are, what you do, what you've been focused on, in case people aren't familiar with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. I got into this space because I wanted to figure out a way to make money online. I was in an industry that was not embracing the wave of change that was brought on by the internet. It was the insurance industry.
I was about to say it's insurance,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, they're always 20 years behind. And no matter how hard I push, like, hey, let's blog, let's YouTube, let's do all these things. Corporate would always say, well, we can't because you don't have a staff attorney to make sure everything is legit. And I was like, all right, well, we're going to get left in the dust eventually. So I need to figure out a way to make money on the internet. And, of course, I started drop shipping on eBay, and that was miserable. And then finally I found Amazon and FBA. And it just, I don't know, it made sense immediately to me. I understood buy low, sell high. That's fairly easy when it comes to business. But when you saw that you got the entire logistical infrastructure from Amazon, and you didn't have to deal with any of that stuff, I was immediately all in and started doing retail arbitrage, and then moved to online arbitrage. And then I just started shooting video. Like, hey, I learned something new today. Why don't I make a video about it? And that's turned into a blog and a YouTube channel and a Twitter account. And that's been incredibly rewarding. More than selling on Amazon's great. A couple of guys who can dress like we're homeless and make a good income is nice, right?
Right.
But it's been incredibly rewarding, building an Amazon adjacent business as well.
Yeah, and I love that you've done that, right? So first of all, talking about your YouTube, talking about your blog, let's go ahead and plug that, right? Because I think that is a very, very helpful resource for new sellers and experienced sellers alike. And that's actually how I found you back in 2017. So your YouTube is Clear the Shelf. Your website is cleartheshelf.com. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, you're Clear the Shelf on all socials as well, right? Twitter, Instagram. And for those of you that don't follow him on Twitter, he writes a thread every single day. And this is not just like a, hey, this is what beginners should do, or do this, do that. Here's a very in-depth strategy for mastering Keepa, for example, or using Keepa Product Finder, or using Storefront Stalker Pro to source products. Like, it's very, very informative, informational content that, I learn from it every single time you post it. So give him a follow there. And to your point about creating an adjacent business to Amazon, that's exactly what I've done over the past year, right? I think it's a great hedge against what we know can be a very notoriously fickle industry, because we know at any point, right, Amazon can shut down your account. They can withhold your funds. They can suspend your best product. They can leave tens of thousands of dollars in inventory stranded. There's a lot of risk associated with selling on Amazon, but at the same time, there's a huge opportunity for reward, right? Anything that's going to be that rewarding is also going to be risky. So I like how you've diversified a little bit. And let's maybe take the opportunity to talk about your newest venture that's a little adjacent to Amazon, right? So we were talking before this call about Storefront Stalker Pro, which is a software program that I believe you've improved upon, right? So there was originally the Storefront Stalker program. Now there's Storefront Stalker Pro. Tell us a little bit about like what that does, who is it for, and what can sellers benefit from using it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nate McAllister, Nate. Nate's been a business partner of mine for years, and one of my absolute best friends. And he created Storefront Stalker as a Chrome extension years and years ago. And it went out and you could download all the ASINs that a storefront is selling and then run it through a program like Tactical Arbitrage. And then it turned into Tactical Expander and rebranded and got some new features. And about 7 months ago, I was talking with some guys, and I was like, you know what? I was like, we've got to bring this back. There are some competitors for this particular product that were out there. I didn't like exactly how it was being built, how it was being done. I said, so let's make this better, since, you know, like, we kind of originally thought up the idea, and stuff like that. And so we turned it into a web app that sends you emails every 4 hours with new ASINs, and it became something that's proactive rather than reactive. So
Like
you
that.
go and you find a storefront, you start stalking it, and you can do that manually. You just refresh, check the page all the time, and find the new ASINs. Problem is they don't always come to the top if you're stalking it manually.
Right.
It might be somewhere down in the middle, might be at the end, you don't know. So now we've got a product that will pop all the new ASINs right up at the very top. And then you can, of course, you can Google shopping search from there. We built in Google Lens. You can open up the Amazon page. You can open it up in Seller Amp right from in there. And we've been having some big wins. Last I checked, we're across all the users so far, we're tracking 800 storefronts. And I want to say something like 45,000 ASINs have been found. And then
you launched
every
what,
time,
like 4 days ago, something
yeah, we
like
launched
that.
4 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then every time I log in, I just, I click the Google search, I open up the Amazon page, and I'm probably getting a 15 to 20% hit rate on finding profitable products like right now. And then everything else, I just set a Google price alert for. And so I saw a Columbia hat the other day, and I was like, oh, well, this isn't profitable right now. It was $30 on the source site, but it was $30 on Amazon. Click a quick Google price alert. I get an email on Cyber Monday. They're selling it for $7.44. I'm going to turn that into a $30 sale.
Yeah, all day long. I love that. And the tool, so obviously this is a wholesale focused podcast, and I'm going to go into some wholesale applications for the tool because just off the top of my head, I have a few that come to mind. But I mean, I was an original Storefront Stalker user back in 2017. I think you guys came out with it around that, or Nate came out with it around that time. And back then I was doing online arbitrage, and it was like the best tool by far for really what I would do is I would export seller storefronts into a PDF, or not a PDF, into an Excel file. And then I would upload that Excel to Tactical Arbitrage and then run a reverse search, right? So, I mean, I was able to see, because essentially all the other, like, these sellers have done the legwork for you. They found the products. They, and if they're selling it in their storefront, more than likely they got it at a profit. So then all you have to do at that point is source the product, and that's where reverse sourcing comes into play. And I'm thinking of like a super practical wholesale use for this tool is, like, for example, I know on a lot of the listings that I sell under, I'm competing against the same sellers on a lot of them, right? I have 5 to 10 storefront names that come to the top of my head just that I'm used to seeing on most of my listings. So it'd be so easy just to essentially plug them into Storefront Stalker Pro. And anytime they have a new ASIN in their store, more than likely, we're probably buying these products from the same supplier. So I could set up a simple workflow where it's like every morning, my team could review these storefronts. They could see which new products they've added to their catalog. And then they could go compare those products against our supplier's catalog, or they could literally just create what I like to call just like a shopping list, take that to our supplier and say, hey, we'd like quotes on these products. And I could bet with probably like 50-50 accuracy that the quote that comes back from our supplier is probably going to be profitable, because again, these competitors are probably buying from the same suppliers that we are. So that's, I mean, a super easy way. I could probably add 2 to 5 to 10 new ASINs to my catalog per week just using this one method. And I mean, again, I think you guys, we talked about and I don't know if you want to go into the pricing, but we talked about the pricing of Storefront Stalker Pro before this call. And I really think you guys have underpriced it. I think that was on purpose, but I mean, you and I both know literally one product that you find can pay for this tool for a year, not just a month, but for a year. Everything else on top of that's gravy. So it's a no-brainer to me. Yeah, so I see that being one of the main wholesale applications there. Are there any other, maybe because like this tool inside and out, are there any other applications specific to wholesale that you could see being like a ninja tactic or something, a way you could use this tool to source wholesale products?
I mean, I really like, see, I didn't even think about what you brought up. I really like that. The only other thing I could think of is, if you're tracking sellers who maybe you're looking to be in their shoes,
Hmm.
and you start noticing trends before you're going to pick it up normally. So maybe someone who is big in tools and home improvement, maybe they start branching out into beauty or grocery,
Hmm.
and you'd be able to pick up on that a lot faster. And so the reason I bring this up, and while I think a lot of people are like, well, that doesn't really matter, but I do. I think it does matter because a lot of a lot of sellers are going to be smarter than us. Okay, I
Hmm.
think that you and I are both fairly smart people, but we're also smart enough to know that there's a lot of people who sell on Amazon who just have IQs an order of magnitude larger than ours.
Right.
And those people might know something a little bit faster than we do, or realize what a market is doing a little faster than we do. And so I think it can help us kind of stay on top of trends a little faster
I love that.
than we might notice otherwise. For example, I just got done reading the Black Friday and Cyber Monday numbers because I wanted to see, what they were for 2023. And there is, what I found surprising is one particular sector underperformed while all the other sector, most of the other verticals, outperformed what analysts were expecting. It was the tools and home improvement category.
Interesting.
Yeah. And my thought was, okay, well, that's interesting to know. I figure it's because everyone loaded up on tools and home improvement products during COVID.
Hmm.
And now, they don't necessarily need them, but electronics, toys and games, and beauty all outperform this year.
Hmm.
And my thought was, okay, people are they're a little worried about money in 2023. Everyone talks about a coming recession and have been for the last 18 months.
Right.
And so instead of buying these $1,000 items for the holidays, which would be tools and home improvement products,
Right.
they're buying some still awesome gifts, but it's, under $250 for, the video games, the beauty products, etc.
That makes sense. And I like the idea of looking for trends, right? And also, again, it's like these sellers, a lot of them are smarter than us. A lot of them are doing this legwork so that we don't have to do it. So we've got tools like Storefront Stalker Pro to be able to spot those trends and capitalize on either these trending product categories or these trending brands. And another use case here is, let's just say you find a competing seller that's loading up. Let's just say within a 7-day period, they've added 10 new ASINs to their catalog, all from the same brand, right? So that should be a huge, not necessarily red flag, but should just be a big alert in your head that, like, okay, something's happening here. Either this brand is on heavy discount at some retailer around the country, right? So that's an online arbitrage opportunity. Two, there could be a flood of supply of this brand into the marketplace. So there could be a lot of wholesalers, a lot of distributors getting their hands on these products and then trying to move them as quickly as possible. So it could be opportunity to load up on a big quantity at a lower price. And it could just tell you that this particular brand or this particular product line maybe trends upwards in terms of sales this time of year. So then maybe I need to look into that brand. Maybe I need to start sourcing those products and capitalize on that seasonal demand. So I really do think there's an infinite amount of use cases there and tons that can be gathered from that data for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and we've got plans for a lot of features in 2024. We wanted to get this out for Q4, especially for the arbitrage seller who might want to, do a lot of merchant fulfilling or FBM, throughout the rest of the holiday season. But come 2024, we've got some ideas for some really cool features to get added.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And let's pivot a little bit. So let's talk about Keepa, right? Because in my mind, you were like the Keepa master. You pretty much built the blueprint on Keepa Academy. And a lot of your Twitter threads go deep into some of these Keepa strategies that, I didn't know about. So I bet a lot of sellers listening to this podcast probably don't know about them as well. So let's dive into some advanced Keepa strategies, maybe around Keepa Product Finder or just Keepa in general. So what is your favorite, say, Keepa trick or Keepa hack that you use to either source products or source wholesale lists? Like, what does that look like?
Well, one of the things that I really like to do is let's talk about wholesale price lists, for example. With wholesale price lists, you could upload the UPCs if you have those. If maybe you've had a team member or some software match up UPCs to ASINs, you could upload ASINs into Keepa and pull down all the data. And then what you can do is you can filter everything right inside of Keepa. So maybe you want to make sure that the price is fairly steady over a long period of time. You don't want to see things that are, trend down and go back up, or trending up and then crash back down to normal. And so you can create what I like to call price corridors. The prices are always going to be flexible because it's a dynamic marketplace. However, I kind of want to keep it in between, X and Y on the graph. And so I look for those kind of boring products. They have a boring buy box. Maybe the sales rank is boring. It's not selling the lights out, but you can sell 100 or 250 every single month, and it's just consistent. And you can build all of that in Keepa. You can just put in the right filters. And there's a lot of people say that you can't find anything profitable, and they're just wrong. Right. There's so many products out there that look just like that are boring, that don't have a ton of competition. And if you can get them for the right price, you can make tons of money. And all with Keepa Product Finder.
I think that, so to kind of dive in a little bit further on that. So again, there's people out there that say that, whether they're doing wholesale, whether they're doing online arbitrage, whether they're doing retail arbitrage, a lot of them, they get started and they say, oh, I scanned, 100, 200, even 500 products, and I didn't find anything that's profitable, right? What am I doing wrong? This business doesn't work, whatever. A tip that I got from you back in 2017, right? This was before we had even met on a personal level. In the Tactical Arbitrage Facebook group, I was making the mistake. And this, again, wholesale sellers, like, hang on, because this applies to wholesale as well. I was setting my filters within Tactical Arbitrage to show me products that I was outrageous in my expectations. I was like, I only want to see products that I can sell 500 units a month, that I can make a 50% ROI and at least a $10 profit, right? Which, in you and I's experienced minds, like, that is a slam dunk home run product. Those types of products are like 1 out of every 1,000 that you even buy, much less that you look at. So having those expectations were insane. And because I was setting my filters so rigidly, I was missing out on, let's say, the product that has a 32% ROI and maybe a $3 profit, but I could sell, 600 of them per month, for example. So by being too rigid with your filters, by being too rigid with your expectations, you're just going to miss out on so many base hits, right? Or doubles or triples that really are the foundation of your business. I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I think this applies to you as well. Our bread and butter products, the products we've been carrying for months and some of them even years, I mean, we're making a, 15% margin, 16% margin, 20% margin on. They're not necessarily paying the bills by themselves, but they're very consistent. And over the course of months and years have made us thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's the baseball analogy, I think, is the perfect analogy. Base hits and doubles win games. Home runs are just a function of being up to bat enough.
Right.
And
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I think that building a portfolio of products is the right way to do it. In the arbitrage space, I'm okay if something makes $50 in profit a month and it's not going to overextend me on the amount of capital that I have to spend, I'm down for it. And then the goal is just to do that another 300 or 400 times across your catalog.
Right. Yep. I think the baseball analogy is spot on. And then to kind of go back to my point about people setting just like these very rigid criteria, right? So, and I think really newer sellers are the ones that make this mistake primarily. But let's talk about the strategy. And I know that there's a way to source these products specifically within Keepa Product Finder. So I want you to give us like some parameters or an actual like setup here on how to do this. But this is one of my favorite types of products to buy, where let's say we're doing some sourcing and we come across a product that, let's say today at the current buy box price, it's ranked, let's say 300,000 in tools and home improvement, right? So 300K in any category is not a very good rank. So I think most beginner or even some intermediate sellers would see a sales rank of 300K and they would immediately discount that product, right? They'd say, oh, 300K sales rank, it's maybe selling one time a month, not interested, right? Not going to be a good fit for my business. When in reality, if they looked at the ROI on that product, the reason that product is ranked 300K is because the price is super inflated. So if you were to sell at the current buy box price, you'd be making, let's say, 150, 200% ROI, really high profit. But like we said, it's ranked 300K, so you might sell 1 unit per month, so it's probably not worth it. Well, our strategy is when we find listings like that, I love seeing listings like that because I know that if I buy that product and I send it into FBA and I undercut the buy box by 20, 30, sometimes even 50%, well, maybe I'm not making a 150% ROI anymore, but maybe I'm making a 30 or 40% ROI, which is still a pretty healthy profit. And instead of a 300K sales rank, because I've cut the price so much on that product, maybe that sales rank now comes down to a consistent 30, 40, 50K, right? So I basically juiced the sales rank just by coming in at a lower price. So that's an opportunity that a lot of people skip over. And another way to look at it too is when you come across a listing where the sales rank is poor, but it looks profitable. And then you look at the Keepa graph and it's, well, there's never been an FBA seller on this listing, right? This has only been a merchant fulfilled listing. So just by coming in with an FBA offer, many times in our experience, we can double that sales rank, or I guess double the amount of sales on that listing overnight just by being an FBA offer on that listing. That is probably my favorite listing to find, is a steady price, steady demand. We come in FBA and then we own the buy box and make a ton of sales. So what is a way to set up Keepa Product Finder to look for those specific opportunities?
That's a great question. So let's go with the last one first, where there's only been an FBM offer. Well, the cool thing is Keepa has several filters where you can decide how many new offer counts there are. And you can choose if they are a new offer count, if they're an FBA seller, et cetera, and so on. So, and I'm actually going to open up Keepa here so I give everybody the exact right terms if they want to go and look. But in the Keepa Product Finder, what I would do, let me pop this open here, is I would look for items. I'd probably start filtering by price. I always like to filter a little bit extra just because there's over 1 billion products on Amazon. So, not being too narrow is good, but being overly broad will give you way too many options.
Right.
So
there's a good balance to be had.
Exactly. And it'll take a little practice to get that figured out. But I like to sell things in the, say, $25 to $35 range. Not a massive average selling price, but something that is a little bit better than selling $15 items all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go in and I'd look for items where new third-party FBA and Amazon is out of stock, but new third-party FBM has been in stock. All right. And then I would go down and I would say I'd want to show Amazon out of stock because I don't like to compete with Amazon usually.
Chris, do you want to share your screen for the YouTube? For anybody that's watching on YouTube, they can actually see this in action.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that.
So if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else, you're not going to be able to see the screen here, but this should be incentive to check this out. Check out this episode on YouTube because Chris is about to share a screen. We're going to be looking directly at his Keepa Product Finder settings. So if you want to know how to set up this exact strategy to identify those types of opportunities that I just mentioned, check out this episode on YouTube because, we're watching him do it in action. This is literally the blueprint to make money today.
Yeah. So what I would do is let's say I want something really, really consistent. All right. I might say I want the price to be between, I don't know, $35 and we'll say $45 average over the past 180 days. And then I'll create a little bit of a corridor. So I like to give a little bit of room because we know that prices change on Amazon. So over the past 90 days, I'm going to say $30 to $50. And over the past 30 days, I'm going to say maybe $27 to $53. Now, this will create a filter for you where it seems like, oh, well, the price should be getting larger or smaller. No, this just means that the price is going to kind of be within these bands. And when you start looking at the results, you're going to notice that, oh, well, these have a lot of boring buy boxes. So that's kind of how it works. And we could get into price drops and things like that, but we'll try to do this fast here.
And just to give people, again, for the people listening, to give them context, so he set those 3, essentially call them price corridors, right? At the 30-day averages, the 90-day averages, and 180-day averages. And these are pretty narrow. It's not like we're talking about like a $50 price corridor here, right? Well, just with those 3 corridors, we still have 21,256,823 products on Amazon that meet this criteria. So we've got to filter down a little further to make sure that we're really honing in on the products that are going to be a fit.
Exactly. And one of the things was we could go for sales rank. Now I'm going to leave that open for now. We can come back to sales rank if we have too many items to go through. I'm going to put Amazon out of stock for right now. I'm also going to put new third-party FBA as out of stock. We're going to leave new third-party FBM as in stock. And then we will run down and we will look at the number of new offers that are available. And here we go. So we've got new offer count. Now, new offer count just gives us new, whether it's FBA or FBM. Now, if you want to try to get rid of potential DL brands, or maybe there are a couple of very large sellers who do brand direct and they will file IP complaints, we can come in here and say, you know what, over the past 90 days, I do want to see at least 3 sellers on the list.
3. Yep.
Yeah. And that brings us down to 71,000, which is still a ton. All right. So we're going to keep going down, and we're going to come to another filter, which is the 90-day out of stock percentage. Well, I want Amazon to be out of stock most of the time. I'm going to say, let's say 90%. So in the from column, I'll put Amazon out of stock 90%. I'm going to leave the 2 column blank. That's just infinity. So 90% to 100%, they're going to be out of stock. That's still 65,000 products.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll do 95 and knock that down a little bit more. Still 65,000. And let's see what else we have here. Package mentions. We could get really in the weeds, and
you can get
talk
so
about
granular.
Size
that's
of
what I
products.
love about. Yeah, that's what I love about Keepa Product Finder, is how granular you can get.
Exactly. So the final thing that we'd want to do is we go to this count of retrieved live offers. Now, this is not my favorite filter to use, but this is going to be the thing that will do the trick for us right now and show us some products that have FBM only on it, and have been that way for hopefully a little while. So we'll do new FBA as 0. We want no FBA offers, and we want at least 1 new FBM offer. All right. Well, that still gets us 63,659 products. So, and these are listings that have no FBA offers currently. It has at least 1 FBM offer. It has an average of 3 sellers over the past 90 days, and it should be within that price corridor. Thing is you're probably never going to go through this many, so now we've got to filter down even more. And I don't know, give me some bestseller ranks that you normally like to stick within.
And so we're looking for the products that, again, have no FBA seller. So more than likely the BSR is going to be a little higher than normal, right? So are we setting a minimum here or maximum, or both?
Let's do both. Yeah, we'll do both.
Let's look at, let's say, from 50K up to, let's say, 350K. Let's keep it pretty broad.
Okay, that's super broad. So we'll do the 30-day average between 50,000 and 350,000. And now we're down to 13,000 products. So I'm going to go from 45,000 to, we'll say, we'll do 360,000. All right. Now I'm down to 11,000. We may need to go a little bit more narrow here. Let's do 50 to 125,000. And currently we'll do 45 to 130,000. 2,570
products.
Yep.
And
then
real quick, so and just to give people context, so we narrowed this list from what 21 or 26 million down to 2,500. And let's think about it for a second, right? So we have a pretty tailored list of 2,500 products that meet this criteria. Let's just assume that only 10% of that list is going to be viable, is actually going to meet like the criteria of what we're looking to source here, right? So that's about 250 products. And let's assume further that 10% of those that meet our criteria, we can source profitably. When in reality, it's probably going to be 30, 40, 50%, but let's be super conservative. So 10% of 2,500 gives us 250 that meet our criteria. 10% of that 250 gives us 25 products that are more than likely going to be profitable. These are 25 products that have zero FBA competition. You're only competing with FBM. So if you jump on that listing with an FBA offer, you are going to own that buy box and you are going to make consistent sales day in and day out. And this is from one single search with a very, very narrow set of criteria. And you can just play with that criteria all day to find new products. So my point in bringing this up is like, there is literally an unlimited amount of potential on Amazon. I don't care if you're selling, I don't care what niche you're selling in. I don't care if you're new. I don't care if you're experienced. There will never be saturation in this business as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what anybody says. I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't buy it either. As long as there have been markets, there have been arbitrage opportunities. It's, I tell people it's the second oldest profession in the world, is arbitrage. And it's not going away. Right.
So what are we looking at here? And let's give some audio for the folks that are listening here on Apple or Spotify.
Yeah. So I was looking through some of the results that we got for the search that we did. And so I'm staying away from a couple. There's some that have some weird names here, like Weather Beta, and maybe that's a brand name I'm just not familiar with, but it sounds a little off to me. So, maybe that's a PL product that has gotten through.
Right. And you just know that from experience, right? So, and I'm the same way. It's like, I'll record some of these videos and I'm doing some sourcing and I'll look at a listing and I'm like, I can't really put into words why this is kind of fishy to me, but just from experience, the brand name in all caps, that kind of sounds Chinese, right? Because there's a lot of Chinese sellers. It's like after you've been at it for a while, you can take one look at a listing or one look at a brand name and know, like, I just know this is not going to be a good fit. So that's kind of what we're talking about in this case.
Yeah, and so this one, it has a weird name, Weather Beta. You can see that they tried to make good images. I don't think they did a super great job here, right. But these are fine. And there's 3 sellers on it over the past 90 days consistently. So my very first thought is this is probably a couple of sellers who went in together, created a product together, and they're all selling it. Right. And because PL does not have to be just one person. You can, create partnerships and things like that. So I'm going to stay away from that. But bonitos or Benito, I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah. This is something that I have seen out in the wild. I've seen it at the grocery store. And so I know that this is a product that there's got to be some sort of distribution for it. And I can see here that the number of sellers is falling. The price has been, this is the kind of price I'm talking about. Prices are always going to change on Amazon because the price has an inverse correlation to the demand or to the supply and demand. Right. Okay. Yep. And so as the number of sellers went up, the price came down a little bit, but not drastically. Now the number of sellers is going down, the price is coming back up a bit. And we can see that there's been a ton of FBM sellers who own this buy box.
It's rotating, meaning the buy box is rotating perfectly, right? And again, just looking at this Keepa graph, the sales rank on this product got as low as what, 39K there, even a little lower right before that, when the product was priced around a $28 price point. So today the product is priced at what? That buy box is at like 35. So really the price has gone up about 20% from its low. And because of that, the sales rank has gotten a lot worse. So we're looking at this Keepa graph, the price has gone up, sales rank has gotten worse. So we know that if we can source this product at a profitable price and price it right around where it was at its peak demand, which is, like we said, $28, $29, then we know we're going to make a lot of sales at that price point. And dude, this is a 4-pack of potato chips. Like this probably cost, it's 4 10-ounce bags. I mean, it probably, the whole bundle, the whole 4-pack, well, you can probably source it at a cost of $3, maybe $4. And that's if you're buying it at retail. If you're getting this at wholesale, you can source this product for, $2. Turn around and sell it for $26, $27, which is where it was when it had its most demand, FBM. Or you could do what I would probably do, and I'd say, hey, let's undercut these guys. Let's sell this at $19.99 or $21.99 and probably get the sales rank around 20, 30K consistently, still make probably 100 to 200% ROI, if not better, own the buy box, make 100, 150, 200 sales per month, and literally just keep replenishing that product on autopilot because no other FBA sellers have found it, and more than likely they won't find it for a while because according to this Keepa graph, they haven't found it in the last year, so why would they now, right?
Exactly. So what you just said there is you're living Jeff Bezos ethos. Your margin is my opportunity to be able to come in, undercut this, offer a better something better for the consumer, which means AKA Amazon's going to reward you, right? A prime offer and a cheaper offer, which is things Amazon wants. And then for me, just looking at this, I also see another huge opportunity here. You can see that the sales rank back in October jumped up precipitously. Well, chances are this product had a parent ASIN at one time. It was a variation listing, and it has been orphaned. Chances are because you know what you're doing, you could get that fixed, and you would then be able to get even more sales by lowering the price, offering an FBA offer, and having this joined back with its parent ASIN so that it now gets the juice from the parent ASIN sales as well. And someone who does all of those things would crush with this particular product.
And keep in mind, for listeners, for viewers, this is literally the first product we looked at on the results page of, what did we say, 2,500 something products. So, I mean, again, I don't think I need to beat a dead horse here, but there is just unlimited opportunity. And you could even take it a step further. I mean, bonitos, I don't know if that brand is owned by like a ConAgra Foods or Nestle. Like, I don't know if that's a big brand, but if it's not, if it's just a mom and pop brand or some, smaller company, what I would want to do is I would want to get on the phone with the owner and explain to them, hey, do you guys realize you have some of these Amazon listings that are kind of spread out around the catalog? They're not being marketed correctly. The price point is all over the place. There's no prime offers. You got child ASINs, orphan from their parent ASINs, right? Essentially, like basically there's a lot of room for improvement here. I'd love to talk to you guys about what we can do to partner together. We could be a reseller of your products. We wouldn't charge you for it, helping you, get this figured out and keep growing your sales on Amazon, right? So there's just so many opportunities with that one product, with that one brand.
Yeah. So I know that I'm not a wholesale seller, but while you were talking, I did 2 quick Google searches. I did Bonitos parent company, and I found out that it's something called the Good Bean. And then I typed up the Good Bean parent company, and it's a privately held company by a husband and wife team who sell bean-based snacks out of Berkeley, California. That was founded in 2010. Prime opportunity for being able to partner with a brand to properly market their products on the Amazon platform.
Well, and remember, when we looked at that Keepa graph, we saw that when that ASIN was a part of the parentage, so when it was grouped together with the other products like it as part of the variation listing, that parent listing was ranked like 5K, 4K, 5K in grocery. So not only is this one particular ASIN an opportunity, it sounds to me like this Bonitos brand has a lot of other products that sell really well. I mean, 4K, 5K in grocery is a really good ranking. And not only do they own this chip brand, but like you said, it sounds like they own multiple brands of like bean-based products, right? So, I mean, again, it's like when we get off this call, I might call them up or I might reach out to them on LinkedIn. So for those of you listening to this episode, or if you're watching this episode on YouTube, reach out to bonitos, right? Tell us how it went. Tell us what opportunity, what you're going to be pitching them, and what came of it. So I think, again, I think that there's really an unlimited amount of opportunities like that on Amazon. The key is just knowing what to look for one, and then two, how to look for it, right? Because Keepa Product Finder, in my opinion, it's a skill just like reading a Keepa graph. It's pretty much a separate skill, and it's almost like ChatGPT, right? There's like people can use ChatGPT, but there's a skill and an art in how to prompt it. Like anybody can use Keepa, but there's a skill and an art in how to filter it and how to set it to show you what you need to see.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really try to tell people is a lot of people get overwhelmed, whether it's, oh, well, I did this search and I didn't get any results back. Well, you didn't break it. Just clear it out and start over again. Eventually you will get it. And plus, I've written like 25 threads or more on how to do different searches. You can use those as a base and then use your imagination, because there really is an unlimited number of ways to be able to use the Keepa Product Finder.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And again, just don't get overwhelmed, right? Focus on one product at a time, one search at a time. It's a skill, it's a muscle, it builds with time.
Exactly.
Simplify your Amazon sourcing analysis with a tool called SellerAmp. So SellerAmp is a tool that I've been using for a long time, and I use it every single day in my business. It makes my life 10 times easier because it helps me answer the 3 key sourcing questions. 1 being, can I sell it? 2 being, does it sell at all? And 3, is it profitable? So in addition to telling me things like how many units per month I can expect to sell and how much profit I'm gonna make, I can also use SellerAmp to source wholesale catalogs all within one screen. So I don't have to leave my Google Sheet. I don't have to have any other tools. SellerAmp, the Chrome extension, makes it super easy to do all of my sourcing there within my Google Sheet. So if you want to check out SellerAmp for yourself, head over to selleramp.com/Ganim and use code GANIM, all caps, GANIM, for 50% off your first month, or use the code GANIM annual, also all caps, for 5% off your first year. So head over to selleramp.com/Ganim, use those codes, and let me know what you think of the tool. Awesome. So we're about 40 minutes into this, Chris. Let's transition into a new segment of the episode. It's going to be called the lightning round. So I'm just going to ask you 4 pretty basic questions that, let's take 20, 30 seconds each to answer. I just want to get your take on them. I'm probably going to be asking these questions to each guest of the show from now on. So we'll start with the first one, and that would be, so what resource has been the most helpful to you in your Amazon journey? It could be free, it could be paid, it could be a book, a YouTube channel, a course. What resource has been the most helpful to you?
This might sound a little cliche, but it really has been the community. The Amazon community it's unparalleled in their willingness to help, their willingness to network, the willingness to answer questions. I mean, just short of sharing an ASIN publicly, you can pretty much get any help that you need just by asking an honest question. You ask a gotcha question and people are going to pounce on you, and probably you may deserve that. But if you're asking an honest question and trying to be a part of the community in a positive way, I don't know of anybody who's ever just been told me to go pound sand.
Well, I do, but that's unfortunate. Cool. All right. Second question. Who got you into selling on Amazon? Was it a friend? Was it a content creator? Who was it?
It was a content creator. So I heard a podcast with Pat Flynn and Jessica LaRue of the Selling Family, and that piqued my interest. And then after that, I went and I happened to find Chris Green, who was running the Scan Power community, and I pretty much consumed everything that he put out. And that led me down the path to Nate and several other people. But it was that one podcast that really got me into the Amazon community.
What year was that?
Oh man. I don't know. I'd have to go look at the date on the podcast, because it was shortly after that episode came out. And I think that was like a double-digit Pat Flynn episode, which was years and years and years ago. It had to be
like, 2013, 2014, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because I know you've been in it for about a decade. Nice. Okay. So third question, what is your number one business goal right now, and how do you plan to accomplish it?
Man, that's a tough question. My number one business goal is, I don't know, it's very high level, but it's how can I have the most impact, which is also something I've had trouble figuring out how can that be measured. Because
Hmm.
you and I both know, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so while I want that to be my goal, I'm not exactly sure how to create that as an actual measurable goal. So I'm still working on that. Hopefully we'll have something for 2024.
Nice. And then, so last question of the lightning round. What is your number one tip for new wholesale sellers? And to give you context, this is not somebody that's brand new to Amazon, because typically if somebody's starting wholesale, they're coming from a retail arbitrage or an online arbitrage. So let's say this person has baseline Amazon knowledge, but they're new to wholesale. What's your number one tip for someone like that?
I mean, it's the same for a newer wholesale seller as it would be for a newer arbitrage seller, is expand your timeline. I think that you and I pride ourselves on being realistic when it comes to sharing the opportunity with people.
Mm-hmm.
However, not everyone on Instagram, Twitter, etc. There's a lot of people who speak Lambro. And
I've never heard it said like that, but that's hilarious. Yeah, it's true.
and and those guys, they give us a bad name because we are trying to help people. Yes, we're going to put some money in our pocket for helping other people, but we try to give everyone good advice. We try to point them in the right direction, and you need to expand your timeline. This isn't a 6 months kind of business. This is a, hey, here's my plan for the next 5 years kind of business. The cool thing is 5 years is a pretty short timeline when it comes to actually building a business. Most guys who start a SaaS or some sort of unicorn, they're like, oh, it came out of nowhere. No, they've been working on it for 15 years.
Yep.
And now it's turning a corner. So
I think that is probably the best piece of advice you could give to a new wholesale seller. And there's a great quote, goes something along the lines of, you underestimate what you can accomplish in 5 years and you overestimate what you can accomplish in 1 year. And I know that when I started wholesale, like that was me to a T. Year one, I was like, oh, we're making $1 million, like we're selling $1 million this year. I'm going to, be rich, this, that, whatever. When in reality, it's like, we really didn't make that much money in year one. I didn't make enough from Amazon to pay my rent, which, mind you, my rent at the time was $600 a month. I was living in a shack. I didn't make enough money to cover my rent each month from selling on Amazon until about, I think, 2 years in. And then, at that point, I wasn't full time. I started selling on Amazon until 2017, didn't go full time until 2020. And then really at about, like you said, the 5-year mark is when, I'm not rolling in cash, but is when we started making, money that I think would be appropriate to this level of investment that we put in. Right. So I think the 3 to 5 year timeline is what I always tell people. It's like, hey, if you're in this business to flip some stuff quick, 6 months, a year, whatever, it's probably not the best business for you. I want you thinking on a 3 to 5 year timeline. And it sounds like that's the advice that you would give as well.
Yep.
I love it. Well, good stuff, Chris. So we're coming up on the end here. I think that we would be doing the listeners a disservice if we didn't plug the opportunity that we have coming up in January. So some of you listening to this podcast, you might have taken part in the most recent Wholesale Challenge, which is essentially our live 7-day workshop on how to start, scale, and manage a fully remote 7-figure wholesale business. We did the first Wholesale Challenge back in July. It was an awesome success. We had over 500 people show up live to that class. And we're going to be holding it again live in January. So the next live session is going to be happening January 22nd through the 29th. It's going to be live every night. I'm walking you through how to start, scale, and manage the wholesale business. And luckily, if you don't want to wait until January, you can still catch the replays of the July session by going to wholesalechallenge.com. You can pick up those those replays from July. And anybody that picks up the replays between now and January 1st will get access, not only immediate access to the July replays, but you'll get free admission to the live class in January. So I wanted to make sure that we let people know about that. Is there anything else you would add to that in particular, Chris?
Yeah, honestly, that it's going to be a killer deal because we are raising the price in January. and being able to get the replays to go through now, and then be able to ask questions and be in the community. It really does. The community aspect, I think, is almost as powerful as what you're going to learn during the wholesale challenge, because you're gonna have people going through this with you. So being able to kind of get both things is we're probably doing ourselves a disservice.
Right.
So
I've been told by a few people we're underpricing it, but hey, it's all good. So good stuff, Chris. And guys, real quick before I let Chris tell you where you can find him, take literally 2 seconds, rate this podcast. If you're listening to it on Spotify, if you're listening to it on Apple, give me a quick 5 stars. If you're listening to it on YouTube, give it a quick thumbs up. It really helps me out and it helps push it out to other wholesale sellers. So with that said, Chris, where can people find out more about you?
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite place right now is Twitter. I am at Clear the Shelf on Twitter. That's been where I've been spending most of my time, and really trying to grow, and where I've been putting out what I think is some of the best kind of content I've put out in a long time. So I'd say Twitter.
Awesome. And guys, for me, if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter as well. That's going to be my most active platform. I am at Ganem Corey on Twitter, and I'm at Corey Ganem everywhere else. So I'm at Corey Ganem on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, etc. Chris, thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed it. Can't wait for the next wholesale challenge in January, and hopefully I'll have you back here in another couple months.
Sounds good, man.
All right.